Why don't we start off by you introducing to us why you believe culture is so important and something we need to focus on?
Well, culture is the subconscious matrix, as it were, that we base our daily lives on, our decisions and our expectations. And part of our cultural inheritance has been, individual responsibility, rule of law, things of this sort. And I'll get back to this at a later point tonight, specified intention. And when you break down that culture, you're no longer able to function. Everything becomes upside down, insane. You don't have a presupposition that you can deal with trust with a stranger anymore if the culture is broken down. So it's extremely important. It's the bedrock on which rule of law is based. The founding fathers in this country had a culture they were coming out of that was implied, that they assumed would be there supporting their work in the Constitution and so on and so forth. You take that away, and all you're left with is a document with no context.
Right.
And if the context in which you're making your decisions is gone, or it's being deliberately destroyed or changed or turned upside down, everything falls apart. This is why it's extremely important. I've stressed over and over again, we've got three pillars of this Western culture, and they're all under assault. The Judaic roots with the idea of covenant, which is really contract if you stop and think about it. Even if you look at the Old Testament covenant, what you have is what in law would be called an adhesion contract. That's what it is. So you have the idea of contracts. Things are spelled out. Certain behaviors are spelled out. Certain expectations are spelled out. Certain rewards or profits are spelled out, and so on and so forth. So you have right there the implicit idea of contract that becomes such a crucial component to our culture, because you see the rise of corporate charters in the Middle Ages. You have these things very carefully spelled out. These are contractual obligations. Feudal society is a contractual society.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the bedrocks on which everything is based. And out of feudalism ultimately emerges the modern nation state, France and Great Britain being the two leading examples. The other pillar is, of course, Christianity. And that crucial component is the idea of incarnate logos, the idea that the universe has a superintending reason. But this is not a deistic reason that's off there in the clouds in the abstract. It's actually mingled and entering into human history. And as a result, one of the things that happens is that human creativity now is given a divine purpose and sanction. So you see this explosion also in this culture of the arts, of the sciences, and so on and so forth. And that kind of carries its own seed of critique, too, because if you are asserting a proposition about universal reason, you are opening it up to the critique of reason. So you also have a third component, I think, in this culture, which you see emerge in the Enlightenment and the early Enlightenment, this idea of a humanistic ability and ultimately freedom to critique all of the presuppositions of society. And the result of these three things mixed together have created Western civilization. And the problem that we've seen, particularly in the 20th century, but even more particularly, I think, since 9/11, is that these pillars are under assault in one fashion or another. All three of them are under assault. So to me, this is the matrix of our culture, and the result of destroying these three things is what we have now. We have a group of people that basically think they're free of any sorts of cultural restraints and are acting above the law, and they're also acting above the implied expectations of the culture, and in many ways counter to it. So,
Right.
Everything breaks down.
I always tell the story of my friend John Edward Hurley. He said culture is the integration of the divine in everyday life.